I'm sure there's so many interesting things that you wanted to share. Right before you started this company, what were you doing?
Yeah, so I was not doing biotech, okay? I was not doing bleeding edge revolutionary drug signal therapy
Yeah, something interesting,
biotechnology.
right?
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not even the inventor of this technology. Actually,
Ah,
this technology, which the bumper sticker of what Happy can do is it's a wearable that you put around your neck or your forehead that basically gives you feelings on command. It's
hmm,
subtle sensations of alert, calm, relaxed, sleepy, focused. My focus is my favorite. And what we do is we study and analyze these compounds in our labs in Seattle, and we basically study like muscle relaxants and sleep aids and energy drinks, stimulants, and suppressants, and like a couple shots at the bar, like literally a couple drinks.
hmm,
And we study these compounds and we can see, and through our labs, I'll get into it, but we can see the magnetic wake that's throwing off from these things. And we can actually tweak those into a frequency that comes onto your body and helps your body start to sense a very similar response. Very, very cool. It's one of the coolest technologies I've ever seen in my life. The
hmm,
person who led the team to invent Cialis,
hmm,
he's the chief scientist. He and a dozen other scientists, Mike Butters was another one, and a dozen other PhDs in science. They created this technology, okay, for the last 15 years, $80 million, almost 40 patents, 38, 37 patents all over the world. I'm just taking it and turning it into a consumer technology. So now I'm bringing that incredible tech to the masses. So my team, we just basically, I'm a builder. Okay.
hmm,
So my whole life, for the last 15 years, I see opportunities that no one else has done. I see the vision right away and I build it. And I can bring the teams together, the resources, the capital, the marketing, the ops, everything's there. And then get these things launched to the world, make it sustainable, self-managing. And then I don't do very well in the long term after I've built it. So I like to be more of like the visionary founder, not the day-to-day micromanager, kind of person. So I like to be more in the vision building side of things. But yeah, so my first big company was Apex Leadership Company over a decade ago. My wife's a teacher, and it's actually the largest school fundraising franchise in America now.
hmm,
So we help schools raise money instead of like selling product sales that we probably all did when we were kids. We now have this fitness leadership based 2-week program that the kids do. It's a fun run model, right? Where we go in, we teach leadership, fitness, they get awards every day. And then it ends with this huge race, blow up tunnels and obstacle courses. And we even do dance marathons now. It's super, super fun. And these kids raise like $50,000 for their elementary or middle school.
hmm,
And then we get a small cut of it, cover our costs, make a little bit of profit and move on. And we just do that over and over and over with millions and millions of kids across America.
hmm,
So we started that 2011. My wife, like I said, was a first grade teacher, and I wanted to help her raise money for her class. And that's just how it started. It just blew up from there.
hmm.
So now, we've got about, I think at the peak, we had like 500 employees across the country through the franchise system.
Wow.
Really, really fun business. I mean, literally we were superheroes every day, all day. And we've raised almost $100 million for schools. Incredibly fun. Very close to my heart, what I care about. So we've been doing that for over a decade. And another company I've got is called myfirstsale.com.
My
Now,
first.
this one's fun for any entrepreneurs out there listening. We teach kids entrepreneurship amongst a bunch of other things, but we literally help them start their own business. Not just like, here's videos and a course. We literally give them a storefront webpage and they create their own products, shoelaces, cookies, brownies, whatever it would be, like t-shirts. We have thousands of these kids doing it now. And they pay $97 for our launch course, and we throw in their entire webpage for them.
Mhm.
And they literally build a business. We teach them all about profit and how to build customer base and what's the right price and what's the product you should make. What's your passion, right? What
Yeah.
fits with you. So we started this right when COVID hit, and it's already starting to take off. It's really, really fun. So it's called myfirstsale.com. Any entrepreneur with kids, you got to do it. It's like the best way to get your kids fired up and, you know, teach them the confidence that comes from learning these entrepreneurial skills, grit, resourcefulness, personal responsibility, like the principles of how to manage money, right? So that's a really fun business. And it came out of a need, right? When all the kids went home from school, when COVID hit, we built this thing for them at home. And so it's worked really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I've been doing for my life. I see the need, no one's done it to fulfill it, and I go do it. And it really is as simple as that. Find a need and fill a need. And if you can do it profitably, to me, profit, basically all that means is I can put food on my kids' table, and I have enough to grow and make the business sustainable.
Yeah.
That's all profit is at the end of the day. I think sometimes profit gets a bad rap. People think that you're profit hungry or that's what you care about, but people need personal motive. They need personal responsibility. If someone has profit, if they own something, personal ownership rights, that creates another level of stewardship and responsibility and care. And at the end of the day, that's how the economy grows, is a bunch of people caring about their house, their yard, their business, their employees, their people, their customers. If you have that ownership mentality, you serve people better and you take care of assets more. And so that's all I think profit is. And so for me, it's about, I'd love to have 30 to 40 of these businesses throughout my life where I'm just finding needs in a fun way, something I'm passionate about, and then filling it. And that's what happy is, right? Like happy is literally at the core of mental wellness, like the future of mental health. Like everything's going into like bio tracking and direct stimulate, like ways to help people with mental wellness. And we're at the core of that industry, and that's very close to my heart. And so I wanted to solve that problem. And so that's why we built Happy.
Right. But you mentioned like you are aware of this particular technology, like for quite some time. And then, how did you rationalize, or how did you figure it out? Okay, there's something like this. It exists. Now, there must be something going on in your mind, like, okay, if I use this technology, then maybe I'm able to solve this, right? So those things, how did you figure that out? I'm also hearing that feedback. Maybe you want to push yourself a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry. That's the focus signal. I'm on focus right now. I always, we have thousands of people using this thing every couple days, and people use focus
as you
and
get
alert.
closer to the the mic, I think I'm getting it now.
Got it. Okay. And I can put it on pause for a little bit.
Okay.
But basically, so I invested in the parent technology, the parent company. Their name is Emulate Therapeutics out of Seattle, Washington. They've been around for over 15 years developing this technology. So we're standing on their shoulders. And we licensed this technology 2 years ago for the greater consumer market, consumer tech world. And I got involved because I invested in that company 12 years ago. More than 12 years ago, actually, more like 14 years ago now. But it was several rounds of investments and loans and things like that. But this technology started, it's going to sound like Star Trek. I know. Okay. You just got to listen and understand for a minute. The people behind this, Mike Butters and Dr. Kenneth Ferguson, and all these scientists, they had this hypothesis, and they said, okay, Einstein said that all things are connected through sound, right? All at a subatomic level, everything's connected through frequency, through signal. Okay. It's how electrons connect. It's how protons and neutrons, that's how atoms work, is through vibration and sound. Energy is sound. Okay. Yeah. What if we can prove it? What if we can, okay. And furthermore, what if that's all that happens when you take drugs? That was their idea. Again, this is our parent company, not us. But they basically looked around for a technology that could help them prove this. And the only technology at the time, and almost still today, is this technology that the US Navy uses called magnetometers. Have you ever heard of magnetometer technology?
Yeah. it's the measurement, right? It does the measurement,
It does
and
the measurement.
yeah,
It's the world's most powerful frequency recording
yeah,
device. Okay,
yeah,
magnetic resonances.
yeah, yeah.
In fact, it looks like a propane tank, like a
Mhm.
4-foot propane tank, and the Navy actually uses this to detect nuclear subs all across the Pacific and the Atlantic around the world. It has a 2,000-mile radius. So
Hmm.
think about how precise this is. It can tell within 2,000 miles exactly where these nuclear subs are.
Hmm.
And it's incredible technology. I think it's like 10 to the negative 15 centitesla of sensitivity or something like that. It's like 0.15 zeros, and then it gets a reading. That's how sensitive this device is. And so these guys found the company. It was just scientists in a lab in 2003 or something like this.
Wow.
And they said, okay, we're gonna try to get a couple of these devices. So they pooled their money, not even thinking about the business side, really, just pooled their money, put these things in the lab in Seattle and in San Diego at the time, and started messing with them to see if instead of looking outward, they could look internally at like the subatomic molecular level, like put a compound in there, right? And they worked on it for about 4 years, bunch of scientists, and they put Faraday cages involved to block out noise, and they pumped it full of liquid helium to get the atmosphere of outer space, a super quiet environment, right?
Hmm.
And they finally got their first reading. And for them, one of the founding members had a friend die of cancer, brain cancer. And they said, you know what, let's go for broke. And so their first product that they've been in FDA trials for the last decade is a cancer therapy. So they
Hmm.
got the signal derived from Taxol. Do you know
Hmm.
what Taxol is? It's a chemo drug.
Hmm. Yes.
So they thought, if we can create a signal inspired by studying Taxol in our labs, liquid version, what if we could play that back on people that have tumors, and instead of giving them chemo in their body injected, what if we could just deliver the resonancy and help with stalling the growth, slowing it down, increasing the length of life with people that have stage 3, 4 brain tumors, glioblastoma, recurrent tumors. So that's what they did. They
Hmm.
raised, and that's when I invested, because I was like, sign me up. Let's figure this out. And this was way back, but those tests take forever. I mean, every round of trials is 3 years. I mean, it takes forever to do these trials. So they've been in many rounds of trials. First, they worked with hundreds of animals at the veterinarian cancer centers, amazing results. Now they've moved into human trials. They've had hundreds of people go through these trials, and incredible results. I don't know the exact number, don't hold me to it, but it's like around 40% net increase in length of life, and like helping people survive longer. And there's zero toxicological side effects,
Hmm.
because you're just playing a frequency. And it's really helping people. The people are still wearing it today,
Hmm.
years and years after their treatment, right? To stay alive. So anyway, that's the foundation of the technology. They've been in trials, FDA 1 and 2 already. They're moving into 3 with a pivotal next. Amazing, amazing tech. Okay. So I invested a bunch of money back in the day, and then I went and built all these other businesses. And then some members of the board of the parent company said, we should be interested in maybe doing something other than brain cancer. And
Hmm.
that's when I came in and said, I have an idea. You should definitely take this into the consumer market. And I pitched the vision of, let's create a wearable that's wireless, Bluetooth, and an app that has a library of signals, right?
Hmm.
Sleep aids, muscle relaxants, energy drink signals, happy hour shots. So that's what we built. And
Hmm.
so we got all these different types of signals. We did our blinded placebo-controlled tests. We did all the animal studies to make sure they're safe. And we've released them in the app. And so for the last almost 6 months, people can buy this product. It's a couple $100, like 300 something bucks. And you can play these signals on command throughout the day when you want to be more energized, if you want to be more productive with our focus signal, if you want to relax at the end of the day, get a little giggly on the happy signal, which comes
Yeah.
from these happy hour drinks. And then a lot of people use it for sleep. They put this under their pillow and play the sleepy signal, and they go into deep REM faster. We're launching a 100-person sleep study as we speak. It's happening, which we're really excited about. So yeah, that's the tech.
Hmm. Hmm. So you said like it has been in a test right now, or it is commercially available now?
It is, yeah. We've done tests and we're doing more. So
Okay.
the parent company has a ton of tests, right? I mean, they've got 6 peer-reviewed journal entries in like CNS Oncology and some of these big journals. But our company, we have to prove a couple things. So we did the animal behavior studies and safety studies, like, pathology workups on tissue, making sure everything's safe. So that passed. And we were able to see the mice change. Like, it was pretty cool to see a cage full of mice on the sleepy signal, like passed out in the corner versus the control group, right?
Yeah.
We even blinded, we did it at a third party CRO. So it was a clinical research organization out of San Diego, Crown Bio. And we blinded the lab techs too. They didn't know what signals were on what cages. And it was really cool that they were able to guess which signals were on which ones based on watching the mice. So that was the first step. We're like, okay, we got something here. Then we moved into anecdotal human tests. So almost 500 people tried it there. And just giving us, like, I would put it on you and just say, hey, I'm going to play something. Let me know what you think. Like, just that kind of anecdotal. It wasn't under like protocol. So then we got a bunch of feedback there. We had over like a 92% response rate from people enjoying the signals. That's good. It's great. And then we went into a more of a protocol trial. And so that was last April and May. And that was a blinded placebo-controlled trial. So people would be played a signal and they didn't know if it was on or off. And they could tell 100%. Once they were onboarded, you had to play it a few times to kind of get people to understand what's going on. Because the first time you do it, sometimes you're just like, what the heck is happening to me?
Yeah.
So we had to onboard them, which is like 3 plays for half hour, just so they could start to understand the pathways, understand what's going on. Their brain could recognize what they were getting. But then once they were onboarded, we would, try to trick them where they don't know. We're not even there actually. So it's actually a double blind. It was a virtual play. And so they would either have it on or off, and they would have to tell us if it was on or off. And they were 100% accurate in that guess. And then we would do like alert, sleepy, or off, and you don't know which one it is. And then they were 100% accurate there. The only one they weren't accurate was sleepy and relax, which is like I'm just going to be honest, that's hard for even me. One of them relaxes your muscles, like it's perfect after a workout, but it kind of melts you. The other one puts you into like a sleepy state, like you're yawning, you're ready for sleep, you get into deep REM faster. Those compounds that we analyze are very similar. And so you have to do it like 100 times to really know the full difference between them. Our team can tell. I can tell in like 2 or 3 minutes. A bunch of people can tell now, but if you've just done it a couple times, it's a tough one. It's like if you told me the difference between a Malbec and a Merlot. If you don't have a super sensitive palate, you wouldn't know. Okay. So they were wrong in guessing that, but they could tell if it was on or off. They just couldn't tell which of those two it was. So anyway, that was our blinded tests. And it was, we were really excited about it. Very favorable results, obviously. And then we launched it in October. We did a little bit of an Indiegogo launch. We were like the top 1% of all Indiegogo campaigns. We sold over 3,000 units now, almost 3,500 units altogether. And people are using it. It's super sticky and it's cool to watch the members use it throughout the day. Our highest users are 12 to 16 hours a day of use.
Ooh, that's a long time.
It is. It is. Our average is like an hour or two, right? Like I use it probably a couple hours, 2 to 4 hours during the work days, sometimes on the weekends to relax or happy. But yeah, our most used members are people that are like, they're either, they're recovering from trauma or addiction, and they would much rather do this than a bunch of pills and substances and drinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And smoking. So, so they use it a lot for that. Anytime they have a temptation, they throw this on and click play. And the beautiful thing about this is there's no toxicological issues. That we've had 0 serious adverse events in 400,000 hours of playtime. Wow. So this thing is like, I don't know what your boundary is for safe, but it is extremely helpful to people. It's in the good tech world and safe, right? People are using this on their grandparents, on kids, on all these types of things, and the response is very encouraging from people. So there you go.
Yeah, that's interesting what you managed to do with this particular technology. And I'm now curious, like, I'm just thinking, okay, what if, I'm a person like where I'm not able to identify my mood, between, I don't know, I'm feeling sleepy or maybe I'm just feeling agitated or something, right? So do you get those kind of feedback where I'm not able to identify my mood at the moment, but I still want to
Mm.
try it out, right? So I don't know. I have,
Yep.
I'm anxious about something, right? So, but I cannot comprehend that, right? So then what do I do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And we're not, sometimes we can't fix it. Like if people have trauma or, other blockages, our signals only go so far, right? Like we started with subtle signals. Like these aren't like knock you out electric chair signals yet. We have a couple stronger ones coming right now, which we're really excited about. Yeah, sometimes you just got to go to a counselor or a therapist to help you deal with emotions and moods. What we basically say is, we give you the effect of like a couple cups of coffee for alert of, we call it a smoke free break for the focus signal. There's no smoke or carcinogens or toxins or drugs or anything, but people have said it's like kind of the same buzz they get from that. Right. But there's nothing negative, right? So all we're doing is giving you like subtle effects of things you might ingest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I can't fix a trauma that someone has like that. Only a counselor can do that, or levels of meditation, or a work of God. Right. We're just sort of like a tool in the tool belt. We can give you, I actually saved 50,000 calories last year by using the happy signal instead of having several drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'd have one drink and then I'd use happy and it felt like 3. So I don't need any more. So I slow sip, right? People use that for coffee all the time. They cut back on their coffee use. They don't do 3, 4 cups. They do 1 simple cup with the alert signal and they're plenty. They're good to go. So there's a lot of that that's going on. So this is more of like mood regulation, moods and sensations on command. Really people take pills and powders and smoke things and drink things, whatever, or inject things to get a certain, mood altered state. Like people, that's what they're going after. The problem is that's not a bad thing. The problem is all the side effects that come from doing that, right? If you drink alcohol, the byproduct out of your liver is formaldehyde. Okay. Like if you smoke weed or cigarettes or even vape, like what happens in your lungs and in your throat and in your cellular structure is an absolute catastrophe. Okay. Yeah. So people are trying to go towards an altered state, which I think is a great thing to do. I think an altered state is fantastic. If you can help yourself be more calm, like on command, more alert, more present and focused, more relaxed on command. If you're stressed, if you're holding a lot of tension, or sleep better at night, right? That is a good thing. That is a balancing, that's mental wellness at its best. But if you're trying to get there by smoking and drinking and taking a bunch of pills, you're going to have other problems. Okay. And so what we wanted to create was just a simple, subtle way to give you these things at the click of a button without having to ingest things that can hurt you, right? Potentially harmful things. So that's why I think a lot of people are flocking to this. Is they're like, yeah, I would love to feel better throughout the day and control my emotions better without turning to the things that I know are not good for me.
There is a conflict with the signals, right? So if you think about a situation where you want to feel happy and you want to boost the mood, but all of a sudden you realize like you chose to be happy, but that you're not happy anymore. Maybe there is this conflict with the signal that you received, there is a glitch. I don't know, so does that happen?
Yeah, it can happen for sure. And we have about 5% of people that are just like, I don't know what I'm getting. I've done it 10 times. Most people, we have an onboarding period, right? Like I said earlier, like the first time you do it, like the first time I played, it took me 15 minutes to start to feel something. Some people, it takes several tries, right? Most people get it within the first handful of plays, right? You do a half an hour session, especially if you do like alert, sleepy, like you start to realize what's happening to your body and then you start to feel everything really well. But some people just have so much blockage and trauma blocks from a bunch of things that they just don't feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's true across the board, right? Tylenol doesn't work on everybody. You know, if I go to the dentist, 5% of people don't feel the Novocaine shots at
Yeah.
all, right? Like some people just have a block, and it's not all of the drugs, but you know, some people just don't feel certain things, right? So ours is the same way. We don't expect everyone to feel all the signals all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes I play something for an hour and I'm like, that wasn't much. Sometimes I play it for 10 minutes. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. You know, like it just, there's a lot of factors, right? What you know, if you, are you hydrated? Are you eating enough? You know, is there tons of fat buildup that your cells haven't moved through? What's your mental stress state right now, right? Are you going through a bunch of trauma right now? Like it's very difficult to know and pinpoint exactly what causes people to respond higher or lower. But yeah, like you said, like if you were depressed and you went to a bar and had several drinks,
Yeah.
you'd probably be more depressed. I mean, it's, you know, so our signals just do what like certain compounds might do to your body. You know, we're not the end all be all when it comes to everything mental health related. We actually have a lot of counselors and psychologists that are our customers
Mm-hmm.
because they love having their patients use these
Mm-hmm.
instead of other things they might ingest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a tool in the tool belt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So and how does it really work in terms of like, you know, you put it you know, around your neck right now, and then, you know, I saw some pictures like somebody was also putting it on top of the head.
Yep.
Is there any difference in terms of wearing on top of the head versus around the neck?
Feelings, people kind of split. They choose whatever they want. Some people it works better around the head, like you just make a little bubble
Yep.
on your forehead, form fit, right? And now, but I kind of look like a tax collector. A lot of people end up wearing it, you know, and both are great. Like I actually feel two signals better on my forehead and the rest around my neck better.
Mm-hmm.
I usually wear it like this underneath my shirt.
Mm-hmm.
See that? So
Yeah.
you don't see anything except for the like the logo shining through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you kind of look like Iron Man a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you just basically pair it to the app and you can turn on the app and play any of the signals.
Mm-hmm.
So alert, calm, focus, happy, relaxed, sleepy right now. We have many more signals in the labs as we speak. By the end of the month, we're hoping to launch our next signal out to the whole customer base.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be like Netflix, right? People pay a small monthly fee and it's literally like Netflix for the whole family. They can choose which signals they want. We keep adding more. We're looking at things for diet, like suppressing hunger, memory signals for your mind, performance, vasodilators, like all these different things we're working on right now.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to long-term unleash them into the app for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What if that device was much smaller, maybe like a ring or maybe like a bracelet or something? Like, does that also work? Or like, you know, I'm just thinking out loud because there are so many health related devices these days, and you call it Fitbit or something, right? So maybe I don't know, maybe you have plans to also put this into the much smaller version, so that, you know, a multiple thing can be done. Maybe I'm running and then I also can do multiple things there, right? So
yeah, it kind of has to do with receptor sites and how big the field is. Like this device or this product I'm wearing, it's like a halo,
mm-hmm.
and it's just a copper wire that's creating a field, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's driving that signal onto your body. So anything in like a field this big, it's like a 15-inch box. Like anything in that field is getting it. If I turn into a ring this is Oura Ring, which tracks my sleep, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always studying how sleepy affects it, which is awesome. Whoop, my recovery score, and I do that with Relax Signal.
Yeah.
If we put it into a watch or a ring, it would be a smaller effect because the field is smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean we don't want to do it. I think a watch could be a perfect answer pretty quick.
Yeah.
But our technology, our goal is to put this technology into a bunch of things that you would use in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we just launched to our public, like we did a press release a few weeks ago on a sleep form factor.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on like a topper, a mattress topper,
mm-hmm.
That will help people feel these signals throughout the night, or, wake them up with alert. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like having the effect of a couple cups of coffee before your alarm even goes off.
Yeah.
throwing you out of bed with a ton of energy. Now that's cool. So we're working on a bunch of other form factors that all pair to the app, right? It's like a hub and spokes business model.
Mhm.
Even the chair you're sitting on, imagine having like an oval of our
Yeah,
coil
yeah.
right there, and it would go up and down your spine and on the back of your neck. You wouldn't feel anything, like physically feel like a point, but you'd start to get the sensations while you're working. It's great. A lot of people use the relax signal while they're sitting for their lower back, right? Or if they're traveling, they use calm and relax. So there's just, and ski helmets and yoga mats, and like there's the whole gamut here.
There's so much.
Yeah, not just wearable, but things that you touch, right?
Yeah.
When you're working and walking and everyday stuff. I want to put into a collar someday, or a belt, or a ski helmet, things like that. So there's a bunch of things that we think that this tech will go into, almost like Intel, right? Intel chips are everywhere. We'll kind of, I think, be like that more long term.
Yeah,
this is like the ugly Steve Jobs iPod that first came out, right? He was like 1,000 songs in your pocket and everyone went nuts, but it was an ugly looking brick, right? And then we came out with this and said 1,000 feelings around your neck. And now we're getting like a lot of traction and excitement from folks. But it's going to get better. It's going to have different form factors. It's going to get lighter and smaller and easier. And as we advance the technology, we'll just innovate.
Because, I sit on the computer for, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day. And I'm just thinking out loud, right? Maybe it could be on the screen itself, right? So all day I will have a great mood, so I'm not agitated, I'm not swearing at anyone. So that would be.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, we've had hundreds and hundreds of response, like testimonials, and people being like, this thing got me off benzos. Yeah. This thing gave me the best sleep I've had in 20 years. Mm-hmm. This thing is so good for the aches and soreness in my back if I'm sitting for a long time. The reason I'm even doing this is my grandma was like the first person. So when we were talking about licensing this and starting Happy and doing this whole company, we got the relax signal, and I gave it to my grandma, who was 87 years old at the time, terrible arthritis for a decade, didn't sleep well. And I didn't tell her anything. I just put it on her. Okay. Mm-hmm. And said this, this might help you feel better. And 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, she was bouncing around. She was hugging people. She was feeling like $1 million. She was just like, I feel incredible. That night she wore it again before bed. She slept 11 hours.
Wow.
Hadn't done that since the 90s, man. And then the next morning, my Papa Barney gave me $100,000.
Wow.
He's like, you got to do this. You got to do whatever you did for grandma. You have to do it for 1 billion other people, because you just changed her life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let's go. So that was it. We raised the money. I mean, I put in the first big chunk of money to even get to that stage, but that was the moment I was like, I'm in. This is incredible. So yeah.
And she's still using that.
She actually had been. She passed a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
She had really bad dementia and other issues, but for the last 2 years of her life, we actually think we extended it a lot because she didn't have the pain. She didn't have the sleep issues. She was really not doing well a couple of years. This is over 2 years ago when we did this. So yeah, we now my grandpa still uses it every night. He uses Sleepy every night as well, but yeah, rest her soul. But we think we actually gave her an incredible end of her life for the last couple of years and helped her be at peace.
Interesting. And these are some of the interesting things that you've said. Now, maybe I want to sort of, try to ask you questions that are perhaps not so interesting. What are some of the critical feedback you've received, as far as, I don't know, maybe this didn't work, or, some challenges, right? And what have you done to actually, counter those critical feedback?
Yeah. So from actual customers, our return rates between 5% and 7%. Like, we give a money back guarantee, by the way. So we give it to everyone and say, hey, if you don't like it, send it back, full refund, no harm, no foul. We just want people to use this, because what happens is people fall in love with it, or they're kind of like it and they're fine using it every few days, or once every, 3 times a week, 2 times a week. Or they just don't like it at all, which just happens, 1 in 20 times. And we just give them all their money back, and with a little, Starbucks gift card, sorry thing. Some people though want it back later because they realize we have more signals coming out that are stronger and they want them. So that's going to go down a lot because we're increasing the power of the signals for people.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of want to have like a low high version of everything. Cause some people at like 10% of our members, it's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
So they can only wear it for a few minutes, 5 minutes at most. And then they're like, okay, I'm good. I don't need any more. I'm going to get like overdose, like headache or something. So, but 10% of people, it's too small, right? It's subtle or very little. So they want more. So we're working on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if someone's, we always do coaching calls. Our customer service is like the best thing we have. We have an amazing team led by Shayna. Shout out to Shayna. Her and her team are unbelievable. They get on coaching calls every day with people.
Mm-hmm.
They help people do their 10-day onboarding. Any questions, they're on it right away. And really a lot of it is getting you to the right state to be able to start to feel the feelings. Because once you get them, you're there, right? Like nobody has ever like started to feel everything and then stopped. Like you build as you go. In fact, it's the opposite of a tolerance. Like the more you do it, the more you recognize it, the more your brain welcomes it. There's no tolerance buildup. That was what we were worried about, but it's the opposite effect. So that was a huge home run for us.
Mm-hmm.
But usually people are like, hey, when do I use this signal? How do I use this signal? What's the best time? How long should I do it? I'm struggling to feel these two signals. What should I do? So things like we help you get, stay hydrated, be in a quiet place, do breath work for a couple of minutes to prepare your body, move out bad energy, stop thinking about a million other things so you can focus on these sensations and then play them for half an hour. That sort of be in a safe place, obviously. And then, just coaching like that really helps people get the feeling stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Before we launched though, I got to tell you, we had trolls. We actually don't have any now, maybe like one, but we launched Indiegogo like a year ago before we ever shipped a product. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So all we had was like the animal studies and the anecdotal. We hadn't even finished our blinded trials yet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They were like 2 months from being done. And we launched on Indiegogo and we did not mean to blow up. Okay. We only wanted to sell like 20 grand, 30 grand of units just to see how it would convert. We wanted to test out the funnels and see how it would go. Well, all of our investors start sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got $500,000 of the product sold in the first like little bit. It was crazy. We even had to like shut off like all the marketing and everything just because it became the top 1% of Indiegogo campaigns. And so it got on the radar of all these trolls that were like, there is no way this is possible. This is BS. This is snake oil. And like these YouTubers with like 1 million followers, they got paid like 15 grand to make this hit video against us. So they made this busted video and, we're about to pursue them legally because they use copyright stuff and they made a bunch of false claims, but they came after us and they were like, oh my gosh, like this is evil. How dare you? And we're like, we haven't even shipped one yet. Like, can you give us a break here?
Yeah.
So they had hundreds of thousands of views on these videos. We hadn't even like got out of the gates. It was very stressful. It was like, come on. And so when we finally released our white paper, our like how the technology actually works, our science page and our blinded tests, placebo-controlled tests, most all of the trolls went away. Almost every single one. The only one that stayed was the guy who kept making money off the ads of all the views.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to settle that one pretty quick. But other than that, most of the reviews are very favorable. We had one lady review it and she was like, I didn't really feel it. My mom did, I didn't. And we're like, all right, well, here's your money back. We gave her all her money back and said sorry.
Yeah.
We have a bunch more people with thousands of views on their, reviews online that are loving it. So it's one of those things where you're not going to please everybody, but the people you do help really enjoy it. And you kind of got to focus on, this is more of a mindset thing for entrepreneurs, right? You got to focus on that good stuff because the more you focus on the people who love what you're doing, the more you're going to find people like them, right?
Yeah.
The more you focus on the negative stuff, the more you're going to drain your energy and ruin yourself and not sleep. Every business always has, antagonists. It has skeptics. It has enemies, right? So anyway, that's just my advice for people.
Yeah. And knowing that, with this experience that you had about, people chasing you or, people complaining about the product, without your actual product being released even before that. With this experience, how do you find this particular wearable space? Like, how challenging did you feel? Like, you were into perhaps a separate industry, like you said before. Now you've come to this wearable space. I'm sure there are other competitors like they were thinking or lurking, and we're who has a million different plans. So
Yeah.
how challenging did you find this space?
Well, I mean, any company where you have to invest a bunch in the product, electronics, hardware, consumables, like it is exhausting at times. Like it's a hard space.
Yeah.
You got to put a bunch of money up. You got to build a bunch of stuff. You got to make sure it's, we went through 4 rounds at the manufacturing plant to get the form factor right, the sonic welding right, the assembly right. We have a tamper sensor in this thing that deletes everything if you try to open it. Like it's just crazy tech in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone was really stressful. And I can only imagine what all of my, companions in the wearable space are dealing with at all times, especially with supply lines in China and chips. Chips are now 16 weeks backed up for electronic boards. It's crazy. And so I don't envy people in this space because it's a very, very difficult space. But at the same time, I think that it's one of the fastest growing spaces out there. Mm-hmm. The wearable tech space is going to be 62 billion by 2027. This thing's growing at like 20% a year. So we're in a really good space. Keeping up with demand is very difficult. Paying, cash flow is always difficult. But at the end of the day, very few people are going to try to come and compete with it because it's very hard to do, right? Yeah. So we're building up our moat, and we have IP. No one can do what we can do. We have competitors, but no one can touch us. There's like Apollo, NeoRhythm, Halo Neuroscience, Muse, and a few others that are like doing direct stimulation. Mm-hmm. But all they're doing is using a frequency or like a haptic feedback buzz on your body. And that's just one frequency, mm-hmm. right? And it can help, right? There's been studies to show that does help you feel a little more relaxed or a little more, mm-hmm. Alert. If you neuroplasticity here, helps you with pain here, helps you with sleepy back here. Like there is some of that happening. Like Apollo, they use the chip that we have that goes to tell you that it's on. They just use the same chip off the shelf and they buzz you at a low level to help you feel this parasympathetic hug feeling, right? Which is fine. It's just a chip, but it's a great business, and we have nothing against them because I think more and more people are going to find that the wearable tech spaces are going to help them over time. I see it as everyone else rolling out the red carpet for us, mm-hmm. because we can actually give unlimited amount of sensations and feelings to people as we grow. Others can't do that, right? Like, because every single one of our signals is 24 million bits of data. Mm-hmm. Like the entire spectrum, DC to 22 kilohertz. Like they're giving you a C chord. Mm-hmm. We're giving you the Bach sonata. Okay. And so it's so much more precise. It's so much more targeted. It's so much more like laser. And so now we can give you a bunch of different effects throughout your body. That's why we have 18 signals in our labs right now going through the process. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has this platform technology. They basically just say, buy this, it's one fee, and that's it. And we, I have a hard time recommending that because they make their money on the front end. They don't have the, way to serve you on the back end. So for us, we're like, this membership model where you're like Netflix, join our membership model because over the long haul, we're going to serve you way better and make way better products for you, way more signals you can enjoy with your family. We invest all our money back into R&D anyway, mm-hmm. right? And that's how we're going to take over the space. So I'm excited.
I was going to ask you a question before, but then I thought about it because, when I'm working on the computer, I'm always thinking about something, right? And then like I have to always tell my computer, do this and do that, right? So I have an intent to do something, right? What if the signal actually understands my intent, right? What am I? It might be a lame question, right? So I don't know, if it's just
it's a brilliant question. So when you really understand what our technology can do, we are doing what we believe is happening is we are imitating or emulating a non-covalent bond in the body. So there are certain bonds when you take a drug that are covalent bonds. It's like a chemical bond. We can't do that. Like food. I cannot fill your body full of food with a signal.
Yeah.
or vitamins or amino builders and things like that. But there's non-covalent bonds, and all that is in your body, like ibuprofen and stimulants and suppressants. It's an exchange of electrons. It's a charge that makes your protein receptors change shape. That's it.
Yeah.
So when you start to realize what we can do, we can ultimately create an actual Netflix of feelings here. That's our long-term 10-year behemoth vision here.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, what if biosensors can help us learn what you might need at a certain time, right? Like Oura Ring tracks your sleep.
Yeah.
Right. Whoop tracks your heart rate, your HRV, your blood flow, your movement. Like, these are off the shelf like products, like the components. So our next form factor, we are working on adding in some biosensory information to help see what people are, if it affects their sleep and they have less movement, right? Then we can see that our signals are working over the long haul. Same with our future products we want to build. We want to be able to see what you might need. If your heart rate's elevated, if you have, all these issues with you need recovery, we're like, okay, hey, it's time for relax. Time for you. Hey, it looks like you're down right now. Your sugar levels, or who knows what we can do. Your sugar levels or your heart rate are super low right now. Let's get you up with alert, and focus. So there's a lot of things that we think we can do to take over a lot of the market. And we're really, really excited about that.
Yeah, especially with the advertising space, this is such a big market, right? So whether or not you are making an intent to buy, whether or not you're actually planning to go to Italy or, I don't know, Spain, your holidays. So that is a big market. Like, if the person intending to do certain things, of course you can track cookies and all that in your browser, but this is different, right? This is your real intent, right?
That's right. That's right. I'm excited. I mean, there's so many different markets. I mean, the sleep market is huge.
Yeah.
The stress management market, right? Stress relief, stress reduction, PTSD, like all these things. Veterans, we just partnered with 2 huge veteran organizations for military vets, because a lot of them have been using this to help them regulate mood. Energy in the morning. Like, why do you think the coffee industry has exploded, right? Like, if we can give you energy on command, and more of an alert feeling without having to pay $5 for $6 for a Starbucks every single morning, that's a huge win, right? And then the productivity space for entrepreneurs, people wanting to be at their peak. Those are just like a couple of the main markets we're getting into right now. So really, really exciting.
So maybe then let's look into the challenges now you have at your hand. Like, maybe COVID has also added some element of challenge to your product offering, or maybe the company itself. Maybe think about the challenges that you had pre-COVID versus now.
Well, but yeah, before COVID, we were just building the prototype. I mean, we went through a year of our design phase. Some of the guys who helped do the Fitbit helped do this with us, but we were just building, trying to build web, trying to build app, trying to build the mechanical engineering, the firmware to make this thing work. I mean, it was like 14 months of hell, just trying to get the thing to work. Right. We finally got our prototype. Then we went into like ECE1 manufacturing. So that all happened. I mean, we signed with our manufacturer, Pinnacle Tech, out of the Midwest, and they get their parts from all over the world. We signed with them 3 weeks before COVID hit. Okay. We launched our Indiegogo 3 weeks before COVID hit. It was just nuts. Okay. So they order a bunch of things, and all of a sudden COVID hits, and initially our sales went because nobody wanted to do anything and everyone was scared. And then as the year started to go on, we got more and more and more sales because people started to be at home, and then mental health was a big deal. And so they wanted to have something that could regulate mood and help them out. A lot of people were in front of a screen a lot more. Happy's unbelievable on a screen. I can't tell you how many people I see in my mastermind groups that are wearing Happy every time we're on like these calls, right? Really, really fun. But yeah, I mean, the supply chain was the biggest nightmare, right? Trying to get things out of China, trying to get things out of even the Midwest. Oh, the Canadian border is still closed. We are listed publicly on the Toronto Exchange. And I have yet to go to Toronto since we listed in October because the borders have been shut.
Yeah.
So, COVID just makes the world crazy, and everything changed. So our supply lines are, we were 5 months behind in getting things out to people just because of supply chain work. And it just made everything, like we couldn't even go to the factory for like a month. They shut it down because of COVID. And then another time they had to shut down because all the workers got COVID. One time was just out of quarantine. The other one was literally because they legally had to. So it was like, you know, we had 1,000 orders we had to fulfill, and then they got shut down for a month. So things like that just make it all really, really tough. But you push through and you figure it out, and here we are.
And you know, as you said, like some of the parts are coming from the Far East, perhaps, and maybe you're also doing some of the work, you know, in the US itself. You know, how do you keep up, right? You know, and it must be pretty challenging, right? You know, especially with the you know, supply chain issues right now, because you have a demand and you know you cannot keep up with the demand. Like, how do you do that?
It's like a chicken and an egg, right? Like we had to order thousands and thousands of them, hoping we'd sell them. Right. And so, you know, luckily we have a couple thousand more we're going to be able to make. We just ordered a bunch more, but they're not going to come till July. Right. So we have thousands on hand that we're making and shipping. We've got a bunch of inventory. So as long as there isn't some huge hockey stick order, like we had someone order like 300 units for their whole employee base. And that was like, oh, crud. So as we ramp up, you know, it's just one of those things where, are we going to make 20,000 now? Are we going to make 100,000? Are we going to make 5,000? Like, it's a huge risk. But at the end of the day, the worst risk is not having any product and having people really excited. So, you know, we're getting more bullish on our orders.
And how about the data? Like, do you also collect the data, you know, with the device? Because there must be something that you're learning every single day and making the device smarter, right?
Yeah.
So what sort of data do you collect in that perspective?
We're launching our playback history for people in the next probably 6 weeks. We'll have like you can see your trends, right? But we don't really track per person on the back end at all, ever. We just do like overall use, like how many people used the product yesterday? It was like 500 and something. How many people use it in the last couple of weeks? 1,500 people, right? Like, so we can see those rates just to track like daily active users versus monthly active users, things like that. Our percentage right now is like in the mid 30% or something like that, like better than Netflix. It's pretty insane. But yeah, we don't really track individually, but we have to know like Sleepy is our top signal. We know that. Closely followed by Alert, you know, and because people know exactly what those are going to do for them and they love them. But all of them are used a lot by the members. So we're learning as we go to try to figure out what's the best way to help people throughout the day. We need to know like what time of day they're using it, how long are they using it? Like, we're just trying to learn right now. You know, we don't have any personal information on anybody. We just have like how many X amount of minutes are played of Sleepy in the morning, right? From everybody in the system. So that's good. Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah, no, why I asked this question is because, first of all, you know, there must be different age group, right? So you have 80 and beyond and 70 and beyond and 60 and beyond and so forth, right? So you would know the effectiveness of this device on different age group. Perhaps some of the age group are more acceptable versus not, right? So that's why I'm trying to know, what did you learn from that data that you collected?
Yeah, we haven't been able to track it by age just yet because they don't give us their age when they come in. That's more of like the use case. Like we are working on a way that you don't really have to use the app much. Like we have an airplane off mode, right? And very soon we're going to have a model where it's like click, click, and it just goes to Alert, Sleepy, Relax, and off, just for like senior homes and older people, people in their 70s and 80s that don't have their phone on them ever, or don't even have a cell phone, like a smartphone. You need an app to be able to do this right now. Yeah. So we're working on that to make it more comfortable for a bunch of different types of people. But again, these are all new form factors. These are 9-month projects that we're just working on one at a time.
Right. So, cool. There's one thing that I wanted to ask, and I always ask this question to most of the entrepreneurs that ends up in my podcast. It's like, you've done the basics, right? You've done the hard work now. You've found a way to raise the investments and especially in this competitive space, and What would you advise to someone like who's just, now learning to become a new entrepreneur, and what would you advise those people?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I know we're winding down. I got to jump here in a minute, but
Yeah.
I'd say, only a certain percentage of the population are actual entrepreneurs. If you're unemployable, you're an entrepreneur. If you need that autonomy, you like to create, and you're not scared of the future, you're an entrepreneur. But also, if you need to be coddled or encouraged, you're not an entrepreneur. What was that Elon Musk quote? Someone said, what kind of encouragement advice would you give to all of us entrepreneurs? He's like, if you need encouragement and advice, you're not an entrepreneur. So I would say that, right? Like, entrepreneurs are like cowboys and cowgirls. It's a wild, wild west, and you're creating things that haven't been created before. So expect to fail, right? Expect to do it cheap, fail cheap and often, because then you'll get the winner. Every single one of my companies had 10 failures in that company as we iterated and fixed things. You cannot learn what's going to be the million or $1 billion opportunity until you find out the 99 that aren't with your advancement and your product and your service. So that's the advice I would give. Other than, if you're joining a space that has a lot of competition already, you need to be like magnitudes better. Don't try to add on to whatever else is out there. You try to build something that's magnitudes more faster, cheaper, or higher quality, right? Like that's the advice I would give.
Right.
This was super fun. I really appreciate the time, and I love your audience, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and I want to wish you all the best in what you're doing, first of all, because it's an interesting product on its own. And I'm sure it has some benefits that people are going to sort of, provide you feedback already, if they are providing you already. And hopefully, I get to learn more when it comes to Europe, and when we get to, do we actually buy from Europe already, or like it's?
Yeah, you can. We have 20 countries worth of people using it. So yeah, buy it right now. Just go to happy.com, HAPBEE.com. I think there's even a little discount right now for everybody over the next 30 days. So try it out there. We ship overseas, and you'll get it within a week and a half. So yeah, pretty good.
All right. And then
thanks again.
Thank you. You take care.